Hi crafty friends, Shana from ShanoukiArt. I'm going to be working on some index cards today. I have the index cards that have the one side blank with no lines, but if you have the ones that have lines on both sides, that doesn't matter, they still will work. Just to let you know that these cards are going to have quite a few layers to them as we work towards the final product. I'll start by adding some interest in the background. I'm using a glue stick that I'm placing onto sections of the card and then placing a piece of book page paper over the top. When you press the paper down onto the glue, make sure you press it really well, and then we're going to wait for this to dry. Again, this part needs to dry really well before we go on to the next step. I've left that for a bit to dry, and when I get back, I'm going to peel off some of this paper. So I want to take off the loose end and peel off gently, and then you can see there where the glue was, it actually holds the paper down and does some tearing on the edges, and sometimes the top layer of the book page peels off and it leaves the under text showing. I think this is a beautiful effect. I'm now going to add my first layer of color. I'm going to use my Distress ink sprays. I want a little bit of a vintage feel in the overall look of my cards. I don't actually use the spray portion of the inks. I'm just opening up the bottle and dropping some ink onto the cards, and then I'm spraying water and I move the card around and let the ink move here and there and just sort of let it flow over the page. We want an uneven watery look. And another nice effect here is the ink is going onto the book page paper, which it's absorbing even more and creating its own different darker designs. And while I was drying this, I was turning these over and I noticed that the back had some beautiful designs where the ink was seeping through. And also my cards have warped. As you can see, a lot of people comment about warping of pages. I personally don't mind it. I think it's part of the charm of the card. But if you are really bothered by it, you can just iron these once they're all done, or you can press them under some heavy books overnight. That should help flatten them a little bit. I'm now going to add some gesso with my fingers because this wouldn't be a ShanoukiArt project if there wasn't any gesso involved. I'm mainly concentrating on the lighter bits or the whiter bits of the card, and I'm enhancing that whiteness with the gesso and blending it into some of the inky sections. I'm not sure if you can notice the difference, but I can. If you look at the card on the top right that has the gesso and the two cards on the left, I think the one on the right already has so much more dimension. It has more of a misty feel over it, it's more blendy, and personally, I like that much more. Of course, you don't have to use gesso, it is a personal preference. I just like working with it and I love the effect it creates and how it softens my backgrounds. And also when I can cover up mistakes. Once I'm happy with all my gesso, I'm going to dry this layer really well. Next, I'm going to add some color, and for some reason, I'm going for a bright pink. This is an acrylic paint. I'm just putting a small dab on each card, and then I'm going to use a piece of cardboard, and I'm just going to scrape it across and spread the paint. I'm now going in with a lighter pink acrylic paint, using my finger this time. I'm going to dab it just on the edges of the dark pink, a little bit over the dark pink too, and just in some of the areas just to help add more tones to the pink. Next, I'm going to go in for some contrast. I'm going to use my black acrylic paint and a small sponge and one of my stencils, and I'm going to just dab the black paint through that. I'm concentrating mainly to do this dabbing over the pinker areas just to tone those down a bit. And when I do the dabbing, I apply harder pressure and softer pressure so there's different tones of the black. Drying all my black acrylic paint. I'm going in again with some gesso to lighten some of those black spots. I'm going to just concentrate on the edges of some of the circles just to soften it all. I did say in the beginning there's going to be multiple layers and additions to each of these cards. I don't really have a plan or how I thought these would look. I'm sort of just playing and letting the paint take me and doing the next thing that I think. It's quite intuitive, lots of fun, and I do like experimenting. I'm now going to do some more stenciling. Using a different stencil design, a palette knife and some texture paste, I'm going to add some texture. I keep working over the same areas. As you can see, I'm adding this texture paste again over the pink and black that I've created in the background. I think subconsciously I wasn't quite happy with the look of that. So in a way, this is covering it up, but not exactly. You can see some of it shine through, but it's adding additional interest on top. Once the texture paste is dry, I'm going to add this. It is a sparkle spray in the color Japanese Maple. The brand is Nuvo. It has a beautiful sparkle. I'm going to add to the edges of the card and then I'm going to spray water and allow the liquid to flow in between the texture paste and free flow onto the card. It creates some beautiful designs. I wasn't crazy about the bright pink that I used, so this is going to cover it a bit. And I really do prefer this color. I've created 4 of these cards for the demonstration in the video, and I think I'd like to give them away. So if you'd like to receive one of these as a happy mail, no matter where in the world you are, please comment below, and in a week's time, I will select 4 names randomly, and you will be sent the happy mail. To see if you have won the happy mail, all you need to do is come back in a week and look at the top of the description box of this video. And if you see your name, then just send me an email at shanouki@hotmail.com to claim your happy mail. I'm also using my paintbrush to help the liquid flow along, and you'll notice when I have some of the color on my paintbrush, I do sort of splash it down and create some splatter with that color. As it dries, it creates beautiful effects. I'm really loving the corner of this specific one. Yet another layer, here we go. I'm going to add some black splatter, a very small amount this time, using my watered down black acrylic paint and a fan paintbrush. I'm going to do a very light splatter over all the cards. We're now going to add some embellishments and some focal points. I have this beautiful black fabric. It's a cotton fabric with like a white print on it. I really love it. It's actually an old shirt which can't be worn anymore, but can definitely be used in a craft project. I'm cutting one strip for each card at different lengths, and then I'm going to staple it long ways on the card edge. I'm then going to glue down the flappy piece so it lies flat. You could staple it, of course, at the other end or wherever you want to. You don't have to staple. You could also sew it on or just glue it on. I just like using staples because it adds more texture and interest. I also thought about using a white fabric. I have a white cotton and I had cut a strip to see if that would work. And then I also have calico, which is more of that beigey vintage color, and I'm going to add some strips of that too. I then thought to add some color to some white fabric. So I cut a couple of strips of the white fabric and I placed them into a Ziploc bag. I sprayed some water in there just to make the fabric damp. And then I sprayed that Japanese maple color in the sparkle spray. I then close the Ziploc bag and smush everything around to get the color over the fabric. Now what I liked about this is that the color didn't go evenly over the fabric. It's got lighter and darker, which I think adds to the whole interest of the piece. I'm then going to take the fabric out of the Ziploc bag and place it on a piece of paper and then dry it well. You can either leave this to air dry if you want, or I just used my heating tool. Again, I'm going to cut a few strips and then place them on the cards, either alongside the black and the calico or on the other side of the card. Do it whichever way you like and just create some balance. I'm loving these pieces of fabric, and even on the back where the journaling section is, they look really good. For my focal point, I'm going to be using this, which is from my ArtStacks kit called Full Deck. It is a ready-to-use printed kit, but also available in a digital download, and it incorporates some of my altered cards and some different elements so you can create your own. I'll put the link to ArtStacks in the description box below. I'm fussy cutting out some of these doodles that I have done, some leaves and some flowers. I'm going to cut those out and just see which ones suit which card. I'm going to position them on the cards and just move them around and see when it creates some balance and when it's pleasing to the eye. There are also sentiments and words available. I'm going to cut some of those out and I'm going to add them too. Once I'm happy with the placement of the sentiments and the focal points, I'm going to glue these down. I'm using Mod Podge for this only because it's on my desk, it's handy, and I find it very convenient to use. You could also use a hot glue gun or craft glue or gel medium, whatever you have available. Although I wouldn't recommend a glue stick because we have so many different layers, and including the texture paste, the glue stick might not stick well on that or the fabric. So something a little stronger. Once those are all stuck down, I'm going to trim off just some of the excess that is sort of overhanging on the card. And the top right flower is not working for me. Thankfully, the glue is still wet, so I can move it to a better position, and then I'm going to trim off the excess. And I'm going to add one more leaf to balance out with the flower. Let me show you a close-up of each card. You can see all the beautiful detail, the way the colors have flowed and dried, and all the different background elements that we put earlier and how they shine through. I'm also loving how the backs of the cards have turned out. Overall, I'm pretty happy. I really hope you enjoyed this video and were inspired to create your own index cards. Remember, it's all about layers, so it creates beautiful dimension. And don't be afraid to try something. You can always cover it up or start over. Also remember, if you'd like to receive one of these, to comment in the comment section of this video. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and then hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Thanks again for watching. Happy creating, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.